The story of Chuck Norris, often portrayed as a symbol of strength, resilience, and invincibility, begins not with fame, but with pain and poverty. Born Carlos Ray Norris in 1940 in Ryan, Oklahoma, Chuck's early life was marked by hardship. His father, Ray Norris, was an alcoholic and a violent presence in the household. Chuck would later recall that his father never showed him affection. Instead, he only knew the harsh sting of his father's fists. This violent home environment left deep scars on Chuck, shaping his character and his outlook on life. From a young age, he learned to survive by becoming invisible, attempting to avoid his father's wrath. Yet, the words "you're worthless" became a cruel refrain, planted deep within Chuck's psyche. These painful early years would stay with him, even as he grew into the legendary figure we know today. The battle with invisibility at school. Chuck's struggles weren't confined to home. At school, he was the quiet, shy boy who preferred to remain unnoticed. His clothes were worn and often secondhand, and he lived in constant fear of being ridiculed. His classmates, unaware of the abuse he endured at home, ignored him. He wasn't bullied directly, but instead, he was simply overlooked. His presence barely registered. This feeling of invisibility, of being invisible to others, marked Chuck's childhood and would stay with him throughout his life. It wasn't until later, during his time in the Air Force, that Chuck would begin to break free from this shadow. But even as a young boy, he quietly dreamed of being more than the person he had been told he was. His desire for validation, for recognition, was born from the deep wounds of rejection and neglect. Fleeing to the Air Force. At 18, Chuck made the difficult decision to join the United States Air Force, not as a patriotic move, but as a desperate escape from his father's abuse. In the military, Chuck hoped to leave behind the violence and insecurity that defined his childhood. Stationed in South Korea, Chuck served as a military policeman. However, instead of finding the escape he sought, he found himself battling new demons, loneliness, and a lack of self-confidence. Even in the structured world of the military, Chuck still felt invisible, still plagued by the voices from his past telling him he wasn't enough. The painful memories of his father's abuse haunted him, but it was during this time that Chuck discovered martial arts, which would become his path toward healing and transformation. The discovery of martial arts. Chuck's life changed forever the day he stumbled upon a dojang, a Korean martial arts school, while wandering the streets of Osan, South Korea. Seeing the discipline and strength of the martial artists inside, Chuck was captivated. For the first time, he saw a form of power that didn't come from rage, but from control, focus, and inner peace. Despite his fears and insecurities, Chuck decided to step into the school, where he was greeted by a Korean master who would change his life. His first experience in martial arts was humbling. He was clumsy, weak, and inexperienced. But through the pain, sweat, and frustration, Chuck discovered a new way to fight, not against others, but against his own self-doubt. Martial arts became a metaphor for life, a way to turn personal pain into strength, the hard road to self-mastery. Chuck's training in martial arts was not easy. He wasn't a natural, and he often struggled to keep up with the other students. His body was weak, and his mind was plagued with doubts. But his Korean master's words became a guiding principle. Persistence is everything. Chuck's path was slow, but he was determined to push through. Each day, he faced his own limitations and fought against the old voice in his head telling him he wasn't good enough. Over time, Chuck's body grew stronger, his movements more precise, and his confidence began to build. For the first time in his life, Chuck found a sense of purpose and identity that wasn't tied to his past. The lessons he learned in the dojang, discipline, resilience, and self-mastery, would stay with him for the rest of his life. Returning home to struggle again. When Chuck returned to the United States in 1962, he was a black belt in Tang Soo Do, but the world he came back to didn't yet appreciate martial arts the way he did. Karate schools were rare, and Chuck found himself in a familiar place, struggling to make a living. He worked menial jobs, including as a file clerk at Northrop Aviation, where he felt trapped and invisible again. His confidence was shaken as the old insecurities crept back. He found solace only in his training, practicing martial arts alone in his apartment. Even though his body had become stronger, his mind still grappled with the shadows of his past. Chuck knew he had to find a way out, but he couldn't escape his own self-doubt. Still, the warrior inside him was waking up, and he wasn't ready to give up just yet. Opening his first dojo. In 1964, with little more than determination and a dream, Chuck opened his first karate school in Torrance, California. It was a tiny, rundown dojo with cracked mirrors and a creaky floor. The early days were discouraging. Students were few, and Chuck struggled to make ends meet. He often considered giving up, but slowly, word spread among the martial arts community, and students began to trickle in. Chuck taught with the same intensity and discipline his Korean master had shown him, instilling in his students the same principles of persistence and respect. In 1967, Chuck entered his first major karate tournament and won, not through flashy moves but with precision and control. This victory opened doors he had never imagined. Suddenly, Chuck Norris, the boy who had once been invisible, was being recognized for his skill and dedication. Becoming a karate champion between 1968 and 1974, Chuck Norris became a dominant force in competitive karate. He captured 6 world middleweight karate championships and defeated legendary fighters, including Joe Louis and Skipper Mullins. His record was impeccable, 183 wins and just 10 losses. Chuck's success in the martial arts world cemented his place as one of the greatest fighters of his time. But even at the peak of his competitive career, Chuck remained humble. He knew that his victories weren't just a result of talent. They were the product of years of discipline, persistence, and overcoming the obstacles of his past. The boy, who had once been invisible, ignored, and humiliated, had transformed into a world champion. Yet, this was only the beginning of Chuck Norris's journey. From karate champion to Hollywood star, Chuck Norris's martial arts success eventually led him to Hollywood, where he became a star in action films. His first major role came in 1972, when he appeared alongside Bruce Lee in Way of the Dragon. The fight scene between the two men became legendary, launching Chuck into the limelight. Over the next few decades, Chuck starred in over 30 films, including Missing in Action, Delta Force, and Code of Silence. He became the embodiment of the tough, unstoppable hero, with roles that showcased his physical prowess and unshakable confidence. But behind the fame and the films, Chuck's life was far from perfect. He had faced numerous personal challenges, including health issues, a divorce, and the pressure of living up to the invincible persona that had been created for him. The legacy of Chuck Norris. As the years passed, Chuck Norris's name became synonymous with invincibility, thanks in part to the meme culture that arose around his larger-than-life image. The internet turned him into a mythical figure, making jokes like, "Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down." While these memes became a source of humor for millions, they also obscured the real struggles Chuck had faced. His life wasn't just about martial arts championships and action movie stardom. It was about the emotional battles, the years spent overcoming self-doubt, and the wounds that never fully healed. Despite everything, Chuck Norris has remained a symbol of perseverance. His legacy is one of resilience, proof that even the toughest warriors carry scars, both visible and invisible.